Hi class, today we're going to talk about how to evaluate expressions and to use the order of operations. Before we begin, we need to define a few things. First, we're going to define the word variable. A variable is a letter. It is a letter that is used to represent one or more numbers. So it's a letter used to represent one or more numbers. We use these very frequently in algebra. When we have some unknowns, we can just represent them with a letter, indicating that there are several things or several numbers that could be replaced with those letters. An algebraic expression consists of numbers, variables, and operation symbols. And what I mean by operation symbols are your add, subtract, multiply, divide symbols. We're going to look at a few expressions that utilize each of those operations. The first algebraic expression we're going to look at is 5 times n. When you have parentheses, you write 5 times n is what that means. Now, you don't always have to use just parentheses. When you have a number in a letter, number in a variable, sometimes you will just see it written as 5n, so be aware of that. If there's no symbol, it is implied that we're going to be using multiplication, and that is what this operation represents, is multiplication. Now when we use a fraction, which is what this looks like, it's 14 over y. A fraction really just means to divide. So this can be written as 14 divided by y. And this operation is division. And we will be representing division using fractions. We're not going to use the division symbol as much. So now let's look at the next one. The plus symbol means 6 plus c, and that is going to be referring to addition. Lastly, we have the minus sign, 8 minus x, and this is going to mean subtraction. And that's how we write out these expressions. Later, we will learn how to translate words into expressions in a later lesson. All right, so we're going to go down on these notes. We're going to look at what evaluating an expression means. To evaluate an expression, it means to replace a variable with a number, some kind of given number. They will give us the number, and then we're going to plug it in and simplify. So if we look at example 1, letter A, we have 13n. We are to represent n with the number 3. So what we will do here is we will take 13. Okay, we will take 13. This means times. Remember, we can use parentheses to indicate that. So we're going to put a parenthesis around what we're plugging in, and we're plugging in a 3. So that's going to be 13 times 3, which is 39. On the next one down, we have 9 divided by n. So this time, we're going to take 9 and we're going to divide that by 3, which will give us 3. And so that's what to evaluate an expression means. So we're now going to look at a power. What a power is it's an expression that represents repeated multiplication of the same factor. So each power has a base and an exponent. The base is the larger number, the exponent is the smaller number, written as a superscript. And what that exponent represents is the number of times we are going to multiply the number 3. So this 3 to the 4th power represents 3 times 3 times 3 times 3. And so that is what a power does for us. It helps us with repeated multiplication. So let's look at a few examples on how to work with powers. So first we're going to talk about filling out this chart. We have a 7 to the 2nd power. That's how we would say that in words. Sometimes we also might say 7 squared. When it's an exponent of 2, you might see squared in it, or you might see the words 7 squared. But what that means is 7 to the 2nd power. And to write that as a product, we would write it as 7 times 7. All right, so the next one down is a variable. So we're going to write that as z to the 5th power. So z to the 5th power is what this represents, z to the 7th power, which we can also write as z times z times z times z times z times z times z. 7 times, 7 z's. And that is how we represent powers. All right, if you will go to the next video, we will work on order of operations.